you're here because you're designing your study protocol or you're trying to submit a grant application and you need to know whether your study is going to be feasible. So how many people are going to meet your eligibility criteria? The first thing you do is you log into SampleScope and you use your institutional email address. So there's no need for a password. You'll get sent a unique code and then you'll be taken to a dashboard. So each user has their own unique secure dashboard and they can use that to start a new query. They can view draft queries, they can view submitted queries, and then they can also use it to copy and paste a previous query as a basis for a new query. We'll begin a new query by starting a new data request. So the first thing you'll need to do is read the user agreement, which outlines privacy, the limitations, and also the usage rules. So first you'll need to be able to agree to those terms of use. So the next 3 steps are used by the data linkage unit to ensure that both the research and the researchers are meeting the criteria for using the tool. So it's really important that we're providing this information to research that we believe is going to have potential public benefit. So here you just click on your professional role, and if you have an ORCID, add that in. That just helps the data linkage unit to be able to authenticate you as a researcher. So then you enter your research title, okay if it's a working title, and then we'll also ask you to provide the aims of your study and then just a brief lay summary. So for this example, I'm going to be looking at patients who have experienced kidney failure or rejection and have also had cardiovascular disease before the age of 40. So this next page just gives you a bit of an overview of what to expect in the SampleScope Query Builder. So the study period relates to the cohort of interest based on an index event. So for this example, we're going to be looking at the diagnoses of a kidney failure or rejection. So I'm interested in cases of kidney failure or rejection from 2000, and I can put an end date here, but I'm wanting the most recent data. So I'm just going to click the box here saying most recent data. So if you're not sure what date ranges are available, you can just click on the link here and that will take you to a page on our website which will provide you the most current dates available. If you have any specific date restrictions around any of your inclusion criteria, you can add those later on in the next steps. So this is where we specify the inclusion criteria. So this is where we add in all the defining characteristics of our cohort. You can start anywhere to build your query. I'm going to start here in demographics. So first I'm going to select both males and females, and I'll also click unknown just to make sure that I can get a whole cohort. You'll notice here that there's no gender option. The reason for this is that very few of the administrative data collections collect that variable, or those that do, the data's quite recent. So if you need gender, you do have an opportunity at the end of the query to be able to add notes. So just add it into there. So you'll also be required to indicate whether you want deceased people included in your cohort. So this is really useful for clinical trials where you want to make sure that those who aren't alive aren't included in your count. So you can select by either age or date of birth, and that's just to accommodate for the different types of studies. So I want all ages here because I want to capture all cases of kidney failure or rejection, but I'll have an opportunity later on to provide specific age ranges around my other inclusion criteria. You also have the opportunity to be able to restrict your cohort by location, and that can either be by facility or the patient's usual residential address. You can do this by either statistical area or service district. And you just click the arrow here to increase the granularity. After selecting demographics, add a new criteria group. You can do this using clinical information, so things like diagnoses, procedures, interventions, but you can also select by service use or by a data set, which allows you to select different variables. I'm going to look for a specific diagnosis in clinical information. You can do this either by typing in the diagnoses or typing in the ICD-10 code. Within each criteria group you create, you can generate successive variables, and what that does is it allows me to create different age or time restrictions around that specific criteria. I can limit a clinical condition to a specific data set, as you can see here, but for this study, I want a diagnosis recorded in any data collection. I want those people who have experienced a kidney transplant rejection or failure, as well as have had a cardiovascular disease diagnosis. So I'm going to create a new criteria group. So you can see here that you can also add rules around timing and sequencing. So I'm going to set cardiovascular disease as the preceding event. You'll see that there's several different options depending on what your study requirements are. So I'm going to click on age here and select cardiovascular patients who have been diagnosed before the age of 40. So on this page, you can add any exclusion criteria you need to add. So for this example, I'm going to exclude patients who have had multiple transplants, whether it's heart or lung, in case that biases my results. So you'll see here that there's an extra notes section here that allows you to provide any additional context. So this is really useful for you as a researcher to be able to give the data linkage unit any extra information that you think is going to help them be able to give you a more accurate number. So I'm going to use this notes section here to ask the data linkage unit to exclude any additional patients who have had multiple kidney transplants. So I only want to include people who have had one kidney transplant in their lifetime in my study. Before you submit, you'll be able to review your requests. So you can see from this page everything that you've entered so far, and you can edit any of the entries. Once you've submitted your request, you'll receive a reference number on screen, and this is also sent to you via your email address. Once you've submitted your request, you won't be able to edit it. So if you need to withdraw your request or edit it for any reason, just reach out to the data linkage unit that you've submitted to. At any time, you can go to your dashboard, you can view pending requests, you can resume drafts or copy any previous requests as a basis for a new one. So the data linkage unit will receive your query via email, and it will include a data file that's got all of your request parameters. So they'll manually review your request, ensure that you're a legitimate researcher, doing legitimate research with perceived public benefit, and you'll receive a report within 10 days. So the report will provide you one of three things: a valid result, which gives you the size of the cohort, an invalid request, or that the request doesn't meet the minimum threshold. So that just means that the cohort size that was returned as a result of your query was too small to be disclosed. So if your report does come back with either an invalid request or that it doesn't meet the minimum threshold, the data linkage unit will use this note section to provide you with some more detail. If your result is valid, then the data linkage unit will use it to let you know what data collections have been used to be able to draw your cohort size from. It'll also let you know what date range the cohort size reflects. So this is in case the date range that's available for a particular data set is different to what you entered in your study period at the start. And they'll also use the notes section to let you know about any data quality issues related to any of the variables that you've selected. So if, for example, there's a particular variable that hasn't been available for the whole period, or if coding's changed over time, that'll all be included in that notes section. The idea of this notes section is to make sure that you're making a fully informed decision, or that you really understand what that cohort size is representing. You're now ready to use SampleScope. Please go check it out, and we really do hope that it helps take some of that uncertainty out of your research projects.